Welcome back to our podcast, Tales from the Other Side, Stories of Grace. By this time, if you've been listening to our podcast, you've recognized that we've got a lot of unique guests that join us to tell their story of grace. And today I am here with my good friend, Kurt Rudd. So thankful to have you here, man. It's awesome.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, Kurt, you and I, we were just talking before we, went live with these mics, but we've known each other for how long now?
6 years.
About 6 years, yeah. And if people are watching, they don't realize how tall you are. And just how, you have this just unbelievable presence when you're in a room. And, when I first saw you, you were hard to miss, because you stick out in a crowd. You're so tall and just...
handsome.
And handsome. Yeah, I was headed to handsome. But I met you several years ago, and then I had the opportunity to hear your story live at a Celebrate Recovery, and it was so awesome that we had certain things in common that we didn't know, which will come out in this, and then a whole bunch of stuff that's not in common. But God has absolutely given you an unbelievable story and an unbelievable walk from one side to the other, out of the darkness into the light, really, through grace. Really, in the light, into the darkness, back into the light, sort of. But it's a unique story. So before we get into your story, tell us a little bit about you, Kurt.
I'm a recent transplant to Roane County. I went to Powell High School.
Powell.
Still Panther.
You're a Panther. I went to Lenore City. I'm a Panther. So see, we got that in common.
There you go.
Panthers.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids, 16 to 29.
Oh, gone.
Yeah. And I have a amazing, hot, beautiful, don't deserve her wife.
You sure do. Your wife is awesome.
Yeah.
She's the sweet part of you.
Absolutely. And I work for Child Help. I work in foster care. I do care coordination for foster care. I make sure all the foster kids get the services they need and help find permanency for them.
That's not what your story is today that we're talking about. However, I think it's kind of interesting what you do. It must be a joy to be able to see kids that may not have a suitable home life find a suitable home life. You get to connect kids who are needing parents to parents who are wanting to raise children.
Absolutely. Our first goal is always reunification, get the parents healthy.
Absolutely.
A lot of times that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Got to work with a family here in the church that adopted a little girl.
That's exactly right. We may have their story on.
Yeah. It was a super blessing. I was in court this morning and 2 little ones were adopted. So
that's fantastic.
That's the good part. You get to see a lot of the ugly part too and deal with all that. But you hold on to days like this.
Yeah, today's a good day. Yeah, today is a good day for a lot of people, and you get to watch it, courtside.
Yeah, you see the worst and the best in people in what I do.
You got to hang on to days like today when you're dealing with the worst.
Absolutely.
So speaking of the worst, let's talk a little bit about your story. Let's just dive off in this thing. I saw you speak at a local church at Celebrate Recovery, and I'd heard, I think when we met, you kind of mentioned or hinted to the fact that you had a story. You actually graduated college from the undergrad program of the seminary I went to. Mm-hmm. I went to Southern Seminary out of Louisville, Kentucky, and you actually went to Boyce College out of Louisville, Kentucky. They're brother schools or sister schools, whatever.
Same classes.
That's exactly.
Same papers, same books.
Yeah. It just depends on what degree you're getting, right?
That's right.
And we were talking about just that men's choir that sings sometimes up there in that chapel. It's unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely.
So good. And both of us, have sat under, Al Mohler and just his wisdom and his leadership. And so we have that in common. What was your degree in again?
Counseling.
Yeah, so you're a counselor. So before this is over with, you may have me straightened out. I'm hoping so. I need it.
I'm not that good.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, you're going to call in reinforcements. Yeah. But you went to Southern Seminary or Boyce College, and then after that, what happens? Take us on the journey of your story.
Well, I want to back up.
Yeah, sure. I'm following you.
Most of the people that end up where I was at come from what we refer to as hard places.
Yeah.
So my life started out in a pretty hard place. And I have some pretty bad memories. First memories of my life were fear. My first memories are, my dad being physically abusive to my mother and us. And
Wow.
I remember one particular time she was just crying out for help. You know, he was, you know, doing ugly stuff to her and abusing her.
Yeah.
And I just had to kind of hide my head under the pillow. And
You remember how old you were?
I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Wow.
So the first feelings that I ever had that I remember is just fear and terror and that sort of stuff.
And that's in a home that you were supposed to, I mean, it's a normal home that you're supposed to feel secure
Right.
and supported and loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's your first feelings as a 4 or 5-year-old is
Absolutely.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, I mean, there was one morning I woke up and came out of my bedroom and there was a trail of blood that went down from the bathroom down the hall.
Oh, wow.
And it scared me to death. I thought he had done something really bad to
your
mom.
mom?
And ended up, I ran down the hall and my grandmother was sitting on the couch and my dad we had one of those big glass sliding shower curtain things.
Yes.
And he had dropped it on his toe and cut his toe real bad. And I just remember liking the feeling or being relieved that my dad was the one that was hurt,
Not your mom.
which is so unhealthy in itself.
I can't imagine just even as a little boy
Yeah.
or to have those thoughts.
Right. And I tell those things to tell you that fear is what I got engraved in me, and fear is what I took into adulthood. And I'm 6'6", big guy, and you know, you would think he's not going to be scared of a lot, but I had this fear, you know, and it was.
Well, you weren't 6'6" at age 4. Right. You know what I mean? Like, let's put that in perspective. Yeah. You are now. You're a dominating presence. You're a gentle giant. I mean, you're soft-spoken. These guys are hearing you. You're soft-spoken. You hug on people. You love on people. But at 4, I don't know how you were probably just 6 foot at 4. But anyways, you've got these just fearful thoughts that are being really kind of just forced into you.
Right.
And so, okay, so now you're growing. What's going on with Kurt?
Well, and I go through. Mom finally gets away when I'm 7, almost 8, and ends up divorcing him. So I have this really terrible relationship with my dad. You know, he'll call and say he's coming to get us and want and that sort of thing. And so I've never really had a good relationship with him. My mom was an amazing lady. My mom had my brother and I. She would take us deer hunting and fishing.
No way.
That's what we wanted to do. And I mean, she's killed deer with a bow and, you know, field dressed them and cut them up and cooked them for dinner, man. She was something. But then at the same time, she would come home and paint her fingernails and make teddy bears for people. So, you know, that's, she was a machinist. And, but she did what she had to do to raise my brother and I. Yeah. She worked second shift, you know, so I didn't get to see her a lot. My grandmother played a big part in my life growing up.
But what a hero. Right? I mean, as you look back at your mom.
Absolutely.
Moms are special anyways, but yours is a hero. Wow.
She was my mom, dad, best friend. All I mean,
she's all of it.
She was it, you know. And so I never got to see her much. My grandmother, my Mimi. Was a big part of my life. And I lost my grandfather. He died in a boating accident when I had just moved to my grandparents' house, and he passed away in a boat just capsized, and it was on April Fool's Day.
Are you kidding?
Water was still real cold, and he ended up either hypothermic or had a heart attack and passed away. So he was my pappy. I got to hang out with him until I got to about 8, and he passed away. And so
you've experienced a lot just by age 8.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Man. So
I didn't know this part of your story.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So I got into middle school age and kind of kept, I was at the counselors and they tried therapy and that kind of stuff, but I was just always scared to death. I wanted to try to protect my mom, and you come out of a situation like you did, and I feel like I have to protect her. And when I'm not around her and don't see her, I would have.
And now you've got it ingrained that you've lost your pappy. You've lost this man who's an important part of your life. So you've got those virtues in you as well. This fear of losing.
Yeah.
So now you're the protector.
Yeah.
Your head's always on a swivel.
Right.
Yeah.
And just that fear just kept going with me.
Yeah.
I got into high school and still kind of doing that thing and was not, I didn't know much about God, was not that interested, up until middle school. I went to Black Oak Heights Baptist Church in Knoxville.
Yeah.
with
know
the
of
middle
it.
school football team,
Okay.
and they had an evangelist there, and I got saved that day.
No kidding.
Yeah.
In the middle school.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
football player, you
Yeah.
went over to Black Oak Heights to hear this guy talk.
Yep.
And that was where you accepted Jesus Christ.
I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Been
So you're probably, what, 11, 12, 13?
11, yeah.
11? Yeah.
Yeah. I was baptized and kind of was around church, but I had, because Mom worked second shift, I had an older brother, 4 years older than me, and we could do pretty much whatever we wanted to
Yeah,
do.
take care.
And,
Now, is he as tall as you are?
no,
No.
he was a runt. He's about 6'4". So
I hope he's not listening. Yeah. 6'4", so short.
yeah. He actually passed away a year ago.
No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew that. Yeah.
He had liver cancer and
Yeah.
colon cancer and passed away. So
Yeah. And that's your
Yeah.
older brother.
hmm
Yeah. But I bet you all were like the Twin Towers walking around.
we were the Rudd boys. So
Yeah, the Rudd boys. Little Ruddy. I like it.
yeah. So, but I mean, we would, we were kind of on our own a lot
Yeah.
of times. We'd plug in the fried Eddie and throw whatever it's in the freezer in there and eat, and then we'd get into whatever trouble we needed to get into, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
You know, you guys could have, I don't know what year that was, but when I went to college, I had to start cooking for myself a little bit,
Yeah.
and you guys really could have used one of those George Foreman grills back in the day. Now, that
Exactly.
thing saved
I
me
would
a
have weighed a
lot.
lot less if I hadn't used that fried Eddie every night. We used to do all kinds of weird stuff in fried Eddie. If you put it in fried Eddie, it's going to be pretty good.
If you put it in the Friday, and for those of you that don't know what a fried daddy is, you're live. You are missing out. But I mean, you just put a little cooking oil in that thing, and anything you put in, it's coming out fried.
That's right.
I mean, you can fry Oreos, you can fry fries, you can fry anything you got in the fridge can be fried in the
Deep
fried
fried
daddy.
and delicious.
I may go home and do that tonight. Yeah, get the fried daddy out, honey. So okay, so now we're moving on.
Yeah, we're moving on. So I was playing high school basketball.
Okay.
And I had a friend of mine that her daughter was very pretty, and she invited us to church. So I went to church, and because her daughter was pretty, and I wanted to go where her daughter went, and we ended up became me and that girl ended up becoming like best friends. So I
The
got
pretty girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I got into church.
Okay.
And was in church my whole high school. I was Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Oh yeah, FCA.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And was trying to get myself to where God was enough to get rid of my stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I was trying to pursue that, but what I know now, for what I knew then, I didn't know who God really was. I didn't understand grace as
Yeah.
much as I do now. I didn't understand that God pursued me way before I ever pursued Him.
Yeah.
The fact that God knew my fears and were there when they happened. And
You know that you make a great point in the fact that God's pursuing you before you were pursuing Him. Because if we back that story up just as far as we've gone so far, it almost lends to the fact in our childlike brain, we come to Christ in childlike faith, right? But you're 11-year-old. It sounds like you're pursuing Him because you went to a revival. You heard the guy speak. You're doing all this stuff. But what little Kurt didn't know at the time was that God had His finger on you. He knew where you were, and He knew that your all's paths were going to cross, and He knew that the day of salvation was coming for you. He was pursuing you.
yeah, unfortunately, I grew up in a church that was more you. I mean, it was more, if you come to church and read your Bible every day and go to Sunday school and do these things, then you're kind of doing God a favor.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you act right like you're supposed to,
Good
you're
enough.
going to be really helping God out, do
Yeah.
what God needs to do.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
so crazy.
Do your
But,
part. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was kind of raised in. And so I got out of high school, kind of fell back out of church stuff and started doing my thing. And I played around at Roan State a little bit, took a
Okay.
couple of classes, and I think I took acting and something else,
Okay.
just like super easy.
Well, you know that probably wasn't the feel for you. I don't know how they got you on camera. Like half your head would be cut off. Like you don't fit the screen, bro.
Yeah, good
But
luck
you
today.
should have had an actor, a coach say you're too tall. You know what I mean? And it's true. I know this is not what y'all asked for on this podcast, but most actors, the great ones, are short,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're missing
And
out.
I mean, a couple things you couldn't do with your life: be on a submarine or act. Right?
That's right.
I mean, you tall, bro. Okay, so you're taking acting. We digress. You're taking acting. You're at Roan State. You're doing your thing, and then what happens?
Well, line dancing was big.
Don't. Please don't.
I just went there.
You
So,
you
line
you were a
dancing was
line
big.
dancer too?
Heck yeah, I had a belt buckle as big as a hubcap, George Strait cowboy hat. That was the stuff, man.
Kurt, I can't see it, man. You had a hat on? You had the cowboy hat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The little do-si-do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attracted a girl.
You did?
I did.
She went with you?
Yeah. And then she ended up with child.
Okay.
And that rocked my world.
Okay.
Talking about fear.
Yeah. No kidding. So now you're line dancing, Kurt, and you meet this girl, and now you're going to be a dad.
22 years old.
22 years old. You're about to be a first-time father.
Messing around at Roan State. Didn't even have a full-time job. I worked at an after-school program with kids, and that was it. I mean, you know, so I was just gas money and getting around and not doing really anything.
Were you scared to death?
Oh, yeah. And I went to my mom, which is what I do.
Yeah.
And said, you know, what do I do?
And
she said, you be a man, take care of your responsibility, which I thought meant when I got to get married.
Yeah.
So I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was back in what?
93.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was kind of really what you did, right? You're going to step up, be a man. You know, from the South, here you are. You're gonna do right by her, by your child, and step into this father role, this husband role. And now, the idea is your life has begun.
Right.
Right. So you're off and running.
Yeah, and the thing about it was it was easy to start with. I got a job at a place called Surgical Innovations, and I was getting hip and knee joint trays ready to go to the hospital.
Wow.
The rep for Knoxville quit about 6 months in, and I had been going to the hospital and meeting a bunch of people at the hospitals, taking these trays and talking to them, and a couple of people, the guy that owns Surgical Innovations, they said, well, why don't you just let Kurt be the rep? And so I started selling hip and knee joints and making great money, and
dude,
didn't have a college degree. And
93, 94, that's got to be a lucrative job.
Yeah.
For
I
a
was
young
living
guy.
the redneck dream. I had a bass boat and a Chevy truck and a house. I was like,
dude, you were
set.
redneck dreaming.
Yeah. I mean, I thought adults easy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I still get down like that right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So everything's going good. You're riding high. You got a big boy job. You're a dad. You're a husband, and you're rocking on.
Yeah. The baby's born, my daughter, and absolutely rocked my world because I never felt anything as cool as that.
Fell in love.
Yeah, absolutely. And so was doing the medical sales thing, and 13 days before my daughter turned 1, my mom died.
13 days before she turned 1?
Yep.
Wow.
She had a elective surgery. She had battled with her weight her whole life and had gastric bypass and ended up passing away from it about 2 weeks after she had the surgery.
No way.
So that was a huge turning point in my life. I went from, I'm doing okay, this is pretty easy, to probably the lowest point in my life when she died, because she was it.
That's your rock. Right? Regardless of what the relationship was. She's working, you didn't get to see her as much or whatever, but that's your rock.
Right.
That's your mama. Right. So she passes away really unexpectedly.
Yeah.
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 She's a young lady at the time.
Yeah, 46.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now Kurt's in free fall. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go to mom's house and sit on the front porch and throw up on her, and she tells you it'll be all right and it's okay.
Yeah.
So that's gone. And so I'm kind of trying to do life, navigate it,
nobody to turn to.
Right. And so I had taken all my stuff that I never knew really how to deal with into adulthood. And I, kept going and on that train, and I was in medical sales and staying busy and all that kind of stuff. And then I started helping out with the youth at the church I grew up in.
Okay.
And very quickly at a little church like that, you get asked to do more and more. So I had these fears, and I thought, well, maybe if I help with the youth, that'll be enough for God to fix me, or maybe I'll be good enough.
Yeah, that's going to be what fulfills you. That's going to be what changes you, grows you, whatever.
Right. And so I did that for a while, and then I've got a personality. I'm either all in or all out. So I thought, well, I'll do.
We call that an addictive personality, Kurt.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But it was one of the deals where, I was, I thought if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So, of course, I start youth ministry. I go to Boise, sell everything we got, load up in the trailer, and move to Louisville.
You moved there.
Yes.
Whole family, you, wife, and
At this
your
point,
daughter.
I had my daughter and I had a son.
So now
my
you're
second
father of
child.
2.
Yep.
Okay.
Thought it'd be a great idea to
Yeah.
just pack everything up and go to Boyce. And
Well, I'm sure you had people around you too that thought it would be a great idea.
well, sure, yeah.
Here's this
When you
young
get
guy.
called to be in the ministry, not a lot of people are going to go, "Oh yeah, don't do that."
Yeah,
That's,
but
that's
terrible
bad.
idea.
Yeah.
Go to school. Don't do that. Don't better yourself. No, they're all going to be like, yeah, this guy, he's a good looking guy. He's married. He's got 2 youngins. He loves the church. He loves the Lord. That's what they see. That's the perception. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I think me and you can share this. There is a weight that comes with that because of the expectation of others.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We are naturally, you and I are very similar. We naturally want to succeed. If I'm going to be all in, I have the same personality. If I'm all in, I better go straight to the top. Otherwise, I'm all out because I didn't come down here to be middle. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so then when you have the weight of those people that are watching you, and they're like, oh, you're going to do great. And side note, there is an addiction to being needed and wanted as well. And sometimes, I know in my past, I have to be careful with that because that'll cause me to make decisions that I shouldn't make, trying to live up to the expectation of others because they need me to be this. They need me to do that. So now you're loaded up, man, with hopes and dreams, as the worship pastor once said, that God planted in the fertile soul of youth.
That's right.
And you're headed to Louisville.
That's right.
Yeah.
We get up there and I'm going to school and I get up at 4:30 and go to Starbucks and work till 11, go straight from there to class, go to class till 5 or 6, read books till you can't stay awake anymore and type papers, and then you get up and do that again. So during that time is when I started really kind of in a downfall emotionally with my life, because I had it in my mind that if I just give my life to this and I'm going to seminary and I'm learning the Bible and I'm just being bathed in Scripture and all that stuff, that it'll fix me. I mean, I'll be better. That'll be good enough to make things better, and it just was not.
Yeah, it's interesting. People look for all kinds of answers when they're broken, and as men, I think too, and I don't know how many men are listening to this, but as men, it's hard to admit that we're broken, and it's hard to admit that we need help and to find those answers. It's even harder when you've had to look after yourself. You're coming out of the fry daddy era. You fed yourself. You're a big guy. Tall. I mean, it's going to be hard for that young man. If we look back to those 90s, in the 90s, here you are. It's going to be hard for that guy to pause and go, I'm really struggling here emotionally, mentally, and I don't know where to park all these feelings. I'm just going to go deeper into this hole here because spiritually God will fix me. I'll come out on the other side and I'll know Him better and His presence will have fixed me. And everything that I've ever struggled with will be kind of with a little bow put on it, and now I'm going to go help everybody else.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not what happened.
No.
What happened?
No. Well, again, addictive personality.
Hey.
Didn't really know that existed.
Right.
And I'm about to say something that's not going to be popular with a lot of church-going people. But my first addiction was food.
Really? Yeah, that's definitely not going to be popular. You need to, now you started meddling.
I know.
Yeah. But that's true, man. I love food too.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What's
your favorite? What do you like right now?
Well,
and you told me
my
before
wife and I right now are on this big diet. I'm losing weight again.
Yeah.
And we have a cheat meal once a week.
Okay.
We go to Mexican.
Come on.
But I get French fries to go with my Mexican.
At the Mexican restaurant?
Absolutely.
Now, do you carry them in or do you order them there?
Oh, they're fantastic.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry. I may get Mexican French fries tonight.
One time a week.
Did you dip them in queso?
Absolutely.
Oh, my man. We on to something now, Kurt. Hey, that little dacho about to crash and burn.
I'm telling you, it's a battle.
Yeah, it is a battle. Food is a battle.
Yeah. So I decided I got up to 416 pounds.
Hold up.
At one point.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I'm a big guy now.
But now
I was
you're on a
big guy.
6'6" frame too, so I'm sure you carried it well. But man, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah. Yeah. It got to the point where I couldn't be who I needed to be. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I was
Yep.
I was tired all the time and
Sure.
couldn't be the dad I wanted to be and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
so I made the decision to have gastric bypass surgery.
Okay.
And I had done 3 years of school, but
Okay.
I wasn't finished yet. But one of my first, I should back up. Some of my first classes were through Clear Creek Baptist Bible College,
Yeah,
and they
I
had
know
some
of it.
classes over at First Baptist Kingston.
Okay.
Roy Graves was my first professor,
No kidding.
and so I took some of those classes when I still lived in Knoxville. And when I was 3 years into Boyce, he calls me and says, "I'm pastor of a church up in Kingsport. I need you to come up here and be my youth minister and associate pastor." And against what I should have done, I went.
So
And,
now you packed the family up again. Now we're headed to Kingsport.
yeah,
Okay.
I call Kingsport my year of purgatory.
Really?
It was bad.
Really?
I was up at Boyce and getting theology put into me at Boyce at the flagship seminary of the Southern Baptist, went to a Southern Baptist church and was not received well with my theology there.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was not a good situation.
Understood.
Yeah. But while I was there, my youngest son was born.
Okay.
And I had the gastric bypass surgery, which was rough, telling my grandmother and my brother I was going to have it because that's what.
Worried about you like your mom.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I had it, and so my food addiction was taken away.
Really?
And, yeah. And so I couldn't eat. So I started exercising,
Yeah.
and that became my new
That's
new
your
addiction.
There it is.
Nobody in the few years when I was exercising said, "Man, you need to be careful about that. Too much exercise will hurt you." Nobody said that. Everybody was like, "Wow, man, I wish I could do that."
It's just because you didn't come across me. I would have said, "What are you doing? You're making me tired watching you, Kurt. That exercise gonna hurt you."
That's
You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least that's what I tell myself. That's why I don't do it. But you know, it's interesting, and I want to say this too, as we kind of drop this in here, because addiction's we're about to really open this.
Oh, there's more to
There's a
come.
lot, and so addiction's going to play a huge role in this. We've already kind of alluded to it a couple of times. Your addictive, behavior starts popping out. One of the things I've learned about addiction, and it's a passion of mine, like it's a passion of yours at this point. Most people don't realize this. But in addiction world, a lot of times what people want to do is they want to pick one or two things and they go, "Oh, he's addicted to alcohol, he's addicted to pills, he's addicted to sex, he's addicted to this." But most addictions, what they'll teach you is there's more than one. There's one that presents, right? That's the one that we see. But there's always another one behind it.
Right.
And so when that one goes away, we just fall back on another one. And a lot of times there's more than that, So we're watching you move from food. We're watching. Well, actually, if we're watching you move from like this addiction to ministry, churchy type of mentality that you dove all the way in, to now into food, and now we're moving to exercise.
Right.
Yeah, your addiction is schizophrenic, to say the least. It's up and down.
yeah.
It's bipolar. It's
Right.
all over the place.
Right.
All right, so now you're addicted to working out, and you're looking like a stud muffin, I'm sure.
I went from 416 to about 215, 220.
You look like a middle linebacker, I'd say.
I look
Probably
like
a defensive
a
end.
stick is what I look like.
Okay. I was working my way there. A stick.
I was in the gym working out stuff, but I couldn't just go to the gym and work out. I did 5Ks and half marathons and triathlons and
So you weren't just running. You weren't just lifting weights. You were doing cardio and all that stuff.
yeah, in the morning I would go to the gym, lift weights, and at this time I was working at the church, so I would go do my weightlifting, go to the church, work, get off from work, and go do my cycling and my running and swimming and that sort of stuff. Not paying any mind to my family like I should have been. I was consumed with myself, just like a drug addiction.
Yep.
You're consumed with yourself. I was consumed with myself with exercise.
And most people that don't want to see it as an addiction, they say you were driven.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and here's the
He's
final
turned
line.
his life around.
He has.
Yeah.
This man, he is so focused. He's looking good. He looks healthy. He is driven. He's dedicated. That's one of the things that nobody ever talks about is the fact that there's a thin line between driven and obsessive, or driven and costly, right? I'm just a driven person. Yeah, but look at what you're losing, right? And that's where you're headed.
Right.
You're driven, but now we're losing, and you can't see it. This Kirk can't see it yet.
Right. So I would do a 5K or 10K or something. If I did 23 minutes on one, next time I'd have to do 22:30 or something. It was just like I was obsessed,
yeah.
and had to win my age group in triathlon, whatever I was doing, So I ended up getting, I'm about to get fancy with you, but I got something called benign fasciculation syndrome.
Yeah. Everybody knows what that is.
Right.
Yeah, and I hate it when I have that.
I don't, it's a very, very popular thing.
Yeah. You might want to tell us. I ain't got a clue what you're talking about.
It's a nervous system thing where basically I had over-exercised, and I would start running and my calves would...
Lock up?
Benign fasciculation just basically means twitch. So my calves would start twitching to the point where my feet would feel like they were falling asleep.
And yet,
so I couldn't over-exercise anymore.
Yeah, well, hey, you've given me another reason to not exercise. Put that on my list of reasons I'm not going to. Benign twitching or whatever it was that you called it.
Yeah.
I can't risk it, man. I like my calves.
Yeah. I went to 2 neurologists and got the same diagnosis, and both of them said, keep exercising, but just back off and do it
moderation.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's the answer for every addiction we have, is you can control this, just moderation, bro.
Right.
Yeah, that never works.
Yeah. So I was done with that because I couldn't be all in,
So now we got to find something else.
Yeah. So I got addicted to Haiti.
Haiti?
Well, that was my next thing, Haiti. Which, again, nobody's going to say, you're going to Haiti and doing mission trips.
You're such a bad person.
Right.
They're going to say, wow, this guy goes to Haiti.
Yeah. My brother was going to Haiti and he adopted 2 girls from Haiti.
Okay.
And we had the church I was going to at the time had a ministry down there. And I went back and got done with school. And I came back to Knoxville and was working at one of the Knox Area Rescue Ministry thrift stores.
Yeah.
So,
great organization. Yeah. And by the side note, I love Haiti. Like I've done a ton of mission trips. We're big on missions, and I would go to Haiti tomorrow if I could get in.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it there. It's unfortunate the condition that it's in currently.
It's awful.
I've got several Haitian friends. So all right, so you're doing this. You're working at Carm.
Yeah, and because I work at Carm, I can get time off. I start doing trips to Haiti with the church I'm attending there in Knoxville, and they have a girls' orphanage there.
Okay.
And so we're getting up to the point where the earthquake happened, 2010.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I got a seat on a plane on the one of the banks. Let us use their plane, go down to Haiti because we didn't know what was going on with the girls, So I went down there and started going to Haiti, started working with the girls. That was kind of my thing. I really got into it, and I started leading trips. We had other churches that wanted to go, and I would take a group.
Again, you're at the top.
Right.
You're the point person now. All right, you were winning marathons. You were all these other kind of things, and now you're the point man on what we call international mission trips.
Yes.
Yeah. You're the boss.
Yeah, and I just tried to start, of course, learning the language, and I wanted to be the guy, And I would get on a plane and have $10,000 in a money belt and take it into Haiti and bribe the people I had to, and to get our luggage through. And
most people don't realize that you do have to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
I've made many trips to the bathroom to hand out money.
But again, I was the guy. I was the one doing all that,
because they'll keep your luggage. You have to buy your luggage back. And people don't know that, but you do.
Oh, yeah. They'll put it on a table and just sit there and look at you.
And they'll go, let's step over here to the bathroom. You have to give them some money, and then they give you your luggage.
Yeah.
You're off and running.
Yeah. And then you have to pay the people that takes your luggage to the truck. And,
that's right. They get your luggage. Ends. Now you got to buy it again. And there's a guy standing over there with an AK-47 or whatever he's got, and you're like, I'm not trying it out here. Like, here's $20. Give me my luggage.
Right. Yeah. And we just got out of Port-au-Prince. Our orphanage was up in the mountains. And so we would go up there, and I loved it up there.
Yeah, man.
7-10 days up there was just like amazing. And
Yeah.
but again, my family was at home. My wife was raising the kids, and I was doing.
Yeah, but
what I
in your
wanted to do.
mind, aren't you thinking like at that time, because you're blinded by what's going on, but she's got to be so proud of her husband who's living for the Lord, taking all these people to Haiti to take care of all these babies that can't take care of themselves. She must be so lucky to be married to you. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like we can justify anything. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
people that thought that about her too.
Yeah, but of course that wouldn't,
That's not the truth.
Right.
I'm just saying we can think it.
Right. So I was on a trip with the church that I was going to, and there's a bunch of us went up there. And one of the things we would do is go up on the roof of the orphanage, and because you can see the stars in third world country like you
Yeah.
can't see here, and it's
Yeah.
just amazing.
It's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the church I was involved with, they had this thought and had this way that they would do things, and they would get rum. Babancourt rum is made in Haiti.
Sure is.
They would get a 5-gallon gas can full of rum, and they would go up on the rooftop and smoke cigars and drink rum and enjoy God on the rooftop in Haiti.
Who was doing this?
A church in Knoxville that I was involved in.
That's a lot of rum in a gas can, man.
Yes.
And it's flammable.
Yes.
And we got cigars.
Yeah.
They about to be a fireworks show up there.
Yeah. It was not a good culture for me.
I wouldn't think so.
Because I had food taken away from me, I had exercise taken away from me, and I was primed for whatever was next.
Rum in a gas can, baby.
So I drank some Babancourt rum and sat on the rooftop and
Smoked a cigar.
For the first time. No, I didn't do the smoking
Yeah.
cigar thing, but for the first time in my life, I was not a drinker.
Yeah.
I was a teetotaler. Didn't
Yeah.
I didn't say I'd never had it, but it never scratched.
your
It never
deal.
scratched my itch
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
But I was in a place where when I drank that rum up there, it quietened my mind, and
Everything's
my
settled.
fear was gone. My mind was settled, and it was like just a reprieve from the world because I was struggling through life.
Yeah.
Like I was dragging all my crap with me. I'll get into some of the more ugly details of some of the stuff. I would leave a class that was taught by a professor that is amazing on, how to be a good Christian person. But I always had this kind of separate life. I had this kind of dark side of me that had to be fed or something kind of, my mind, I had to have something to make my mind feel better.
Yeah.
So I would leave that class and then I would stop at an adult bookstore on the way home.
An adult bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just see crap and be a part of stuff that felt risque, I guess. But it was something that my mind I could go there and just kind of not be this guy over here struggling.
Plus, it's an adrenaline rush, right? The
Absolutely.
dopamine, everything's
It was just something
firing.
it's something to stop my mind from,
That was your high.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, most all people that have struggled with addiction have stuff. And,
Sure.
and my stuff, and my mind's never quiet, and I have to have something to quieten my mind because I was dragging all my stuff with me and I'd never dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I'm trying to be good enough, and it just never is good enough because how could you go to a class where you're learning about spiritual disciplines with Mark Dever, who's, you don't get no better.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And then you leave that class and go there before you go home to your family.
And when you say that, like some people that don't have a story like yours or have faced stuff, don't think they understand the inability to turn it off.
Right.
Like your brain is always running. It's like a computer in the background. You may not have that thing pulled up right now, but it's always loading, right? And about the time. And the worst times, I think, is when things get quiet or you're left alone. And then all of a sudden, all that stuff, it comes roaring. You can hear it. Now, I can get busy doing something else. I can get distracted for a minute, but she's always sitting there, right? It's always right there. And so you're having those moments and you're going from this place to that place to whatever. What happens with Kurt? Tell me about it.
I had gone from, going to the steakhouse and making myself feel better to running a half marathon and making myself better to now I was drinking rum. Mm-hmm. And the rum worked better than about anything I had tried before. Yeah. So I go back home from Haiti and Paul says a little wine's good for the stomach. So,
Sure.
had some wine, and my wife, at the time, she was, her grandfather had died of alcoholism and
Ooh.
emphysema from his stuff, and her uncle was a drug addict. And so she was just absolutely 100% against any kind of alcohol, but I didn't care because it made me feel better.
That's the new thing, man.
Yeah.
That's
So
your
I
new
started
toy.
drinking, and very quickly, I remember the first time I thought this is getting carried away was I stopped at a liquor store and bought some wine and vodka and downed half the bottle of wine and filled it up with vodka. So she would just think I had one bottle of wine, and went to the house and
Wow.
started drinking before I even said hello to her, so that I could get away with it, kind of thing. So it started this, complete just shut down of any kind of character and morals and things that I thought I had.
So now this is the new thing. This is
Mhm.
what we're running to now.
Right.
Where does that lead to?
Kept drinking. It got to the point where, and here's the thing too, is I had started a job at Department of Children's Services at this time.
Department of Children's
I was
Services.
doing severe abuse, doing Child Protective Services.
How does a man in that moment, you're working in a field that really you came out of.
Right.
You came
And
out
I
of the
think that's the
abuse.
reason that,
It's probably why it attracted you to it.
right.
Because it allows you to help save others that didn't save you.
Absolutely. I don't
Yeah.
want kids to feel like I did.
So you're actually, and people don't understand this, you've not healed from any of that, any of your trauma, any of your mental health stuff, any of that. In fact, you are reasserting it by going back into that, but now you get to be the hero in it as opposed to the victim. But the only way that you can even turn any of that off or live this duplicit life is by watering it down with the alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, every day I'd go to work, and when you do severe abuse, you work with drug-exposed infants and sex abuse. That's like 90% of what you do when you do severe abuse.
And most people don't stay in that long. They
Two
can't.
and a half years is
Yeah, it's just too much.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go rip off my scabs every day at work
Yeah.
and hear little kids talk about being abused, and then I would come home and drink.
Yeah.
And again, my family's over here. One of the worst memories that I have in my entire life is my daughter. I would go home from work, and I worked a bunch of hours, and I'd go home from work and I would drink till I basically passed out. And I was drinking one time in my room watching TV, and my daughter come in at the foot of the bed and asked me just to come in the living room with them. Dad, will you just come in here and watch a movie with us or just hang out with us? And I told her no, to leave me alone. And she was crying and walked out of the room. And it's unbelievable to me that I laid in that bed drinking and didn't go into the other room with my daughter. But that's one of the things today that keeps me where I need to be. But
That memory.
oh yeah, it's awful. So
I think for some of us who carry hurts and pains, there are memories that get stitched in your brain that never leave,
Right.
and it's a matter of what you're going to do with them. They can become anchors that continue to pull you down, or they can become motivators for how you stay changed.
Right.
Right. And so it's a motivation for you.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Man.
So at this
you
time, pill mills are going good, and we deal with a lot of that at DCS.
Yeah.
So I knew where all the good places were because I had kept hearing these doctors' names when I would go into these homes. People would be addicted.
You
and all
knew
that kind
where
of
they
stuff.
were
Yeah.
getting them.
So I had ruptured a disc in my neck and had neck surgery, and got pills, and they made me feel even better than the alcohol. And my wife didn't mind because I wasn't drinking, but I was laying there taking pills. And so when my doctor appropriately stopped giving me pills from my surgery,
Now, this is early on in the pill thing. This is a
Correct.
fairly new deal
correct,
when you're on it. You're on the front end of this
right.
this coming in, this terrible thing.
So I go to one of the pill mill places myself, and I take my MRIs and my X-ray and talk about how bad my back hurts, my neck hurts, but I'm just doing it to get more pills. My neck's fine. But I go and the first time I walked in, I got like 120,
Wow.
lower tabs, and I would get morphine for breakthrough pain, and I had all these pills, at my,
Jeez.
yeah, it was bad at that time.
Yeah, no kidding. They just
That's
handed
the ones that
morphine
they've
out.
shut down and put some of the doctors in jail and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff for pretty good reason.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah. But I quickly got to the point where I was taking, I would take 20 pills a day.
Whoa.
Yeah. And, it just never was enough.
I heard a story of a man one time, and he was a doctor, and he got hooked on pills too, but nobody knew it. And he knew he had a problem when he was starting to go on vacation, and he started counting out how many pills he was going to need to get through the vacation. And I think for him at that time, it was like 700. He needed 700 pills to get through the week.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment he said, I've got a real problem here. And so you're in that situation. You're getting hundreds of pills, and you're going through them.
And so it quickly didn't become enough.
Yeah.
I would get them, and that was supposed to last a month, but it would last 4 or 5 days. So you start doing things that never in a million years you think you would do. I went down to Magnolia in Knoxville, and I found a lady of the evening.
Okay.
And she got in my truck, and I said, "You're not in here for what you think you are. I need to get some pills." And she introduced me to the guy that became my dealer.
Yeah.
So I started buying pills off the street to supplement what I was getting at the.
I want people to pause for a second because we just went from one of the premier seminaries, undergrad Christian schools where all the good ministers go, right? We went from a guy that's at Starbucks at 5 a.m, in class all day, reading at night, growing in his knowledge of Jesus Christ and church history and theology and doctrine and all that stuff, and then putting that into practice being a student pastor. This guy now is sitting in downtown Knoxville going,
Worst place in Knoxville.
I need you to introduce me to your dealer because I need it. Right? Whoa. Like, that's huge, bro. Right? All right, so now you find your dealer, then what happens?
I'm off to the races. I'm using drugs. My wife at the time certainly kind of figured out what I was doing, and so I would try to get clean, and I would get clean for a couple of weeks, and I was going to Celebrate Recovery in Knoxville, and I would go to meetings. I'd go to AA and NA and that kind of stuff, and I would try to be clean, but then I would go back and still working at DCS, and
they didn't know. Wow.
No, which is one of the things that we do in recovery is we go back and make amends with for. But I was actually working and doing this kind of stuff and taking kids out of their homes for drug addiction when I was struggling with it myself, and that's something I'll never be able to go back and ask forgiveness for. I've been told that what I need to do is just be a good person today and be an active member of society and do what I can do, and that's the only way I can make amends for that. But those things kind of stay with you. Because I'm a hero when I'm at work.
Yeah, the truth is those kids needed your help. The problem is they didn't know that the person that's helping them was just as sick as the person they're being saved from.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
So things started getting worse and worse at home. There's a lot of people that work at DCS that are extremely into saving people. Codependencies runs rampant.
Yeah.
A lot of people are at DCS because they're broken people, come from hard places and trying to fix things.
Sure.
So I had a lady there that was trying to fix me, and she was enabling me. And so I thought it would be a great idea to be with her instead of with my family. Which there's another horrible memory of my oldest son sitting on the grass next to the car when I went and packed my stuff up and was leaving, and he was crying,
so now
quietly
you're
crying,
family.
and asked me not to go, and I still went and left. So
doggone.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So I was with her for a short period of time, and that didn't work out, and I went to another girl I worked with had a house that she was trying to sell, and it was empty. So I had been doing drugs, and this we're making it shorter, but it's this is probably a 4 or 5 year period of time where I just kept going down, further down, and further down.
You're in the rabbit hole now.
Yeah, I went from taking pills to, first time I could take you to. I was in a hotel room on Magnolia where my dealer was staying, and I was buying pills that got up to. They started to shut down all the pill mills, so the pills were $100 a piece, $90 a piece. And so he just said, if you'll shoot it, you can get 2 highs out of it instead of 1. And I never thought in a million years I'd put a needle in my arm, but I did. There's a whole lot of things I never thought in a million years I would do. But I was just absolutely at the end of myself at that point.
It wasn't Kurt anymore. Like
No.
you're a runaway train, man.
Yeah, and there's a misunderstanding about addiction I think a lot of people have where, you've always got a choice.
Yeah.
There was a long time during my addiction, I had no choice.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and I think and I want to be sensitive to this, especially if people are listening to this that are parents or children or spouses of someone in addiction that doesn't really see the addiction or the disease, but they see the individual. When we start talking about choices, and I hear people say this sometimes. Well, they just need to choose to do this, or they need to choose to stop, or they don't love me enough, or they don't love him enough. And I hear it. I hear and I think they're right. Okay, yes, you're probably right. But there comes a moment that boat leaves the station, like that train's gone, like that choice was way back there. They made that choice, and now they are a runaway train. They're not. You probably hit a place to where you weren't getting high or you weren't using because to get high or use. Now you're doing it just to live.
I quickly got to that place.
Yeah.
It is a absolutely hell on earth miserable existence.
Yeah.
You're not who you are.
Did you hate yourself during this time?
I hated myself.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about it all. I did every bit of this as a believer. I was saved. I mean, he's had me,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing we got to understand is in salvation, God's work is eternal. What Jesus Christ did for that little boy at Black Oak Heights was eternal. What you do after that is not always a reflection on his work as much as it is the human flesh part of who you are, right?
And if anybody can get anything out of my story, I want them to know that he is faithful to finish the work that he started in you.
Yeah.
And he made me miserable. And I did things that I can't take back.
Yeah.
I'm still living with the consequences of the things I did. But I ended up in an empty house out in Clinton. I had an air mattress and some clothes and coffee pot and a pistol. And I was doing drugs, and I was still working. I would get paid, and it would be a race to the bank when I got paid. I would try to get money for drugs, and my wife was trying to get money to buy food for the kids. I mean, her and the kids were living in her parents' house, and if not for that, I'm not sure what would have happened. But it was just in a horrible place. I was by myself, and I got paid, and I went and bought a bunch of drugs. I bought heroin because heroin had made a comeback since all the pills were gone.
It was
Heroin
cheaper.
A lot cheaper.
Yep.
And so I bought a bunch of drugs, and I thought, you always have this plan. You're going to make them last, and you're going to wean yourself off, and I'm going to get clean this time and all that kind of stuff.
This is the time, yeah.
So I went and I did a bunch of heroin. I did some morphine, and I went to sleep in this house by myself, away from my family, just me. And I woke up and couldn't feel my arms and legs and was gasping for air. And I really think I about died that day.
Overdose.
Yeah. And
Man.
sometime during the night, I had gotten up and done the rest of the drugs. I don't have any memory of it, but they were gone. And I woke up, and I was so deprived at this time that I sat up on the side of the bed, and my first thought was, how am I going to get more drugs?
No kidding.
And I, was just about dead, and I thought, how am I going to get more drugs? So I called my drug dealer, and I said, well, I've got a pistol. And he said, well, bring it. Little did I know, my drug dealer got busted by the federal government. He was down from Chicago selling drugs, And if he would have got that pistol was registered in my name,
Oh no.
and I would have been a part of that.
You talking about the feds now?
Absolutely.
Bad.
And I would go to Cincinnati. I would get money from a couple people, go to Cincinnati and buy heroin and bring it back. And I had enough to where if they caught me crossing state lines, it'd be drug trafficking charges. I'd be in a federal penitentiary if I got caught. Wow. So stuff like that is what you're living with now.
Yes.
But anyway.
Far cry from the boys.
Absolutely. The thing about it is the chances I had to live a life that would glorify God then, I should have just been that person that stayed the course, but I wasn't.
You couldn't.
Right.
I mean, yes, you could have. Yes, we could have made different choices. But there were so many unresolved things in you that you were prime, like many people are, and people that are listening to this, they're so prime for the enemy to work in because of the hurt, the pain, the unresolved emotions, trauma, whatever it might be, abandonment issues, that the moment you open that door, I don't care what it is, you open it up to food, you open it up to a different relationship, you open it up to drugs, to alcohol, whatever, you open that door, he'll kick it in,
right,
and he will pull you down.
Absolutely.
And he did.
That's well said. I mean, you've got it.
And he's got you.
You've sat with enough addicts and heard their stories that you understand.
Well, and and I've faced my own demons, right? So I mean, listen, I had a good friend of mine. I tell people all the time, some of my best friends are former addicts. Some of my favorite people are current addicts. But I had a friend of mine who's a former addict. He'll tell you. I was talking to him Friday night. He's been clean now for several years. I mean, years and years, decades. And he would say, he said, listen, I'm an addict. I'm a drug addict. He said, I was good at it, too.
Oh, absolutely.
He's like, I was a good drug addict. He said, but do you know the thing people don't understand about demons? You don't understand about Satan and this spiritual realm. He said, on my best days, when I think I could do it, he's just over in the corner doing push-ups, waiting on me just to open that door, and he's coming in. Mm-hmm. And that was his thing. That's where you are. He's up and down. I mean, you're all over the place. So where was the turning point, Kurt?
I'm right here at it.
All right, let's hear it. Throw it at us.
I got off the phone with my dealer, and I got the pistol and I put it in the car, and I was driving to his house
to meet him.
Well, when you leave the subdivision I was in, there's a floodplain right there, and there's a road that goes across it. And right before that floodplain, there's a tree right there, just a green evergreen tree. I have a picture of it hanging in my house.
Why's that?
I have no other explanation. But God stopped my car in the middle of the road and gave me a moment of clarity where I could really see who I was and the person I had become and where I was at. And it was May the 13th, 2013. May the 11th, 2013. And the car just stopped, and I sat there, and I thought through all I'd done, and I was done. I was either going to get better or die, and at that point, I kind of didn't care. But I knew I was done, which I had said I was done so many times before. There's nobody that, my brother was done with me. My grandmother had passed away at this point.
Everybody heard it before, Kurt.
Right.
Kurt's done again.
Right. I called my wife at the time and said, I'm done. And she's like, it ain't that easy, whatever. And so
heard it. Yeah.
I called my supervisor. So I had missed several days, but I was still employed. And I called the supervisor, and he put me to HR, which I'm very grateful for because I worked for the state and had good insurance. So I got to go to rehab. I went to rehab down in Oxford, place down in Mississippi.
Wow.
And I actually went to my brother, and he let me stay there until I could get to rehab. He told me, you can't do drugs, but I understand you got to do something so you can drink till you leave, but you can't do drugs. I want drugs in my house. I remember going out in his driveway at 9:00 the next morning, and I was in bad shape.
You were hurting. Yeah. You were sick, dope sick.
And I had a bottle of grape Smirnoff vodka in my car.
I don't know what that's about, but that sounds terrible.
It is awful. If I smelled it right now, I'd probably throw up.
Yeah.
But just to tell you where the place I was in, I knew I had to do something or I was going back.
Yeah.
So I knew if I drank that, I was going to throw up. But I drank it, and I threw up, and I drank some more, and I threw up again. And I drank some more, and finally it took a little bit, and I drank to get by until there was a lady that I had her kid in my youth group that ended up doing insurance stuff for rehabs. And I called her, and I said, you probably don't know this nor understand, but I'm an addict, and I got to have some help. And she said, I've been waiting on you to call me.
No way.
She said, if you'll listen to what I say, I'll get you in a good place. And that's how I got down to the Oxford Center. They actually come in a van and got me and took me down there. And when I was on the way there, God just made it very clear to me to do whatever I'm told to do. Just do what you're told to do. And that's what I did. I got there and went to rehab. I was there 32 days. They told me that I wasn't ready to come back to Knoxville. So I went to Halfway House in Nashville for another 30 days. I did an intensive outpatient when I was in Nashville, and I did some crazy stuff, man. I did meditation, which I'd never done before.
Yeah.
Which I still love. I did restorative yoga.
Okay.
I'm laying there.
You got to be the biggest yoga client ever on the planet.
Absolutely.
Got to be.
But
like when you do a plank, it's like a whole back porch.
Yeah. But I was just doing what I was told to do. I was trying my best to do it,
Yeah, for sure.
And I was just praying. I'm a beach nut, tobacco, orange chewing, gum chewing, pond fishing redneck from Powell.
Yeah.
And here I am with a towel rolled up behind my neck with essential oils on it doing restorative yoga, thinking, man, I hope nobody finds out about this.
Yeah, I'd rather them know that I was an addict to see me like this.
But I had another like big moment in my recovery. We had equestrian therapy down at the
horses.
At the rehab. Oh, yeah. At the rehab I went to, it was fancy.
Yeah, I bet.
And so
you went to a fancy place, bro.
You'll like this because I was too big to ride the horses.
I guarantee you. Those horses were like, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
That was nice. Really.
You like that? You like what I did there?
That was nice.
Yeah, no problem.
So the guy that did the equestrian therapy, I call him the addict whisperer. He's one of these guys that you talk to for 15 minutes and he kind of tell you a lot about yourself.
Huh.
He's a recovering addict and has the horses and does that as a ministry. So he was down there, and one of the most sobering moments of my recovery is I would wash the horses and brush them, and it was just my way of spending time because I couldn't ride them. I would exercise the horses.
But even that is therapeutic.
Right. And I spent more time with him than you would normally spend. Yeah. And it was me and him.
Yeah.
And he told me some of his story, and I told him just a little bit of mine. But I'll never forget, we were brushing the horse, and he was on the other side, and I was on this side, and we were brushing the horse, and we were just talking, and he looked over that horse, and he said, you know that you've become your dad. He said, you might not have ever laid a hand on your family, but you've done what your dad was doing. You don't want to be that person.
Dude.
So
how did that land?
I didn't know if I wanted to punch him in the face or hug him or what.
Better be glad this horse is in between us, bro.
I mean, but it was one of those moments that, was life-changing for me.
I think sometimes when we get those truths laid on us, the thing that makes them so powerful is they hurt at first. But it's in the pain that our eyes open up and go, you know what? You're right. What now you got a decision. What am I going to do to change this narrative, this story, this future?
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought before, when I was doing youth ministry and graduated from Boyce and all that stuff, I thought I had a pretty good idea who God was. But when God stopped my car in the middle of the road and he came running for me, when I had nothing to offer him. There was nothing left of me, and he still chose me. And he thought enough of me to come and do what he did and give me the strength and the power and the grace to go through and do all that stuff that I was able to do. Was not me, man.
Never leave you, never forsaken you. The Bible says that he is jealous for you. And he'll let you get a ways out there. He'll let you. And, he's trying to stop you the whole way, right? People don't recognize it, but he is. But he never gives up on us. We give up on ourselves long before he does.
He's faithful to finish what he starts.
It's right. And that's what he's done in your life. And so now you've been in recovery for over 11 years. God is ordering your steps. And now we've come full circle.
Well,
And if people think back to how we started this and where you've been and what you've done, today you walked out of the courthouse watching 2 babies get placed into homes, right? He's give you a wife, a future, a church, a ministry. You know, you're ministering every day. It looks different than what it started, but you're ministering every day. You got, you're working on relationships with your children and all that stuff, and God's growing you in the father that you are. And I mean, He's really restoring. What would you say, Kurt, to people that are hearing this story that are not on the other side of that, right? They're going into it or they're in it. What would you say to them?
My mantra and the thing that I try to live by my whole life, it's His kindness that leads us to repentance. If somebody's an addict, they don't want to be an addict. They need people to be kind to them. God was kind to me when I didn't deserve it. And I think my job, I have a house, I have a yard, I have an amazing, just beautiful, sweet wife that I don't deserve any of that.
Right.
And I come at life with a completely whole new perspective, because I will always have my stuff. I will always have, nobody's fixed. Yeah. I'll always have my, I'm on a diet right now because I'm still battling food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have an appreciation for everything that I have. I remember one time I was out mowing the yard and I was just singing worship music, mowing the yard. And my wife was like, "Are you enjoying mowing the yard?" And I said, "Whoever thought I would have a yard?" Yeah. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I've gotten over that. Now I hate mowing the yard.
Yeah. Okay. Let's give me something new to sing about. Yeah. Absolutely. Short lived.
Yeah. But He's restored relationships with 2 of my kids.
Yeah.
One of the consequences of my actions is, my oldest boy, he's still working on stuff. And
understandably so. One of the things you were talking about kindness. I think sometimes when we watch family members and people that we love, husbands, wives, moms, dads, children, go through these things, there's a couple of different avenues that we can choose, right? And especially in addiction, sometimes we're too kind and we become enablers, okay? And then the other times that it's so personal and the hurt is so deep, the lies, the betrayal, the sometimes stealing, and all. I mean, there's just so many things.
I did every one of them. I did every one of them.
Yeah, but what happens is when there's people that are close to you, that love you, that look to you, that respected you, whatever it might be, for that person, it can become personal. And now they're mad, they're hurt, they're bleeding because of those wounds. And one of the things I learned in helping people in addiction is when it's too hard for me to be kind to you because we're too close, I got to release you to somebody else, right? While I deal with me, because you've hurt me. And my role now may not be to help you get that help, because if I can get my hands on you, I'm like the older brother in Scripture. I'm going to kill you, right? Because I'm tired of the way you're disrespecting this, that, whatever. So the best route is to go, hey, let somebody else help. And I tell parents sometimes, release them, release that baby. Not a kid, but release them, and let the other people that are not emotionally connected. Because if you lied to me, I'll just go, that's Kurt lying to me. Like, there's no skin off my teeth. I go to my house, lay in my bed, get up with, see my kids. Right. I hate it for you, but it's not personal. If you lie to somebody that loves you and does life with you, it's very personal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And those hurts are real, and they last a long time.
They
it's not
are
something
real.
You can just forget and move on from.
No, they can't. People can't. And I'm not saying that in any way to say, hey, get over it, because it takes time. The same God that stopped you at a tree that can heal you from drug addiction and all the other addiction, all the other stuff, is the same God that's working in the life of people that have been injured to heal them, right? And I think, too, given that space to let healing take place, whatever that looks like, is the goal. And our God's a restorer. He's a reconciler. He's the one that brings things together. And so for those that are listening that are out there and those relationships are broken, trust Him. He can do it,
He'll be faithful to finish what He started.
He sure will.
And, my wife and I, she came from some hard stuff too. Mm-hmm. And I have I mean, our marriage is fantastic. I used to teach marriage classes at church, and I would say, you know, marriage is hard and it builds character, and you just have to grind through sometimes on all this stuff. Marriage is great, but it's because where I've been and what I've been through, I appreciate her, and what she's been through, she appreciates me. And life, when grace is paramount in your life, life is good.
You know, that's a bold statement. We're going to stop there. Like, we're going to end this thing here because you've said it all, and I am just absolutely thankful that you're willing to share this story. You know, Kurt, there's a lot of people that know Kurt from different phases of your life, and I've been blessed to meet you on the other side, on the grace side, right? And I am just so honored to call you my friend. I'm just so proud of you, the story that you've gone through and what God's done. And he's still working in your life, you know? And I'm so thankful, like what you just said, to kind of put that in perspective. I've worked with people that have been diagnosed with cancer, right? In their stage 3, 4. Those people will tell you when they go into remission, they live life different now because life is precious, right? Your cancer was a different kind, but God has set you free and you live it different. And I pray that you squeeze every ounce of it out. And I pray God uses you in ways you can't ever imagine. Yeah. Because now you know those demons. Yeah. You know how dark it is, and you know what that dude's struggling with.
I tell people I hope they get to know God how I know God without having to go through what I went through.
Well, wouldn't that be good? Let's just go around that thing and just get to the good part.
Yeah.
Kurt, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story of grace with us, Tales from the Other Side. And if anybody's out there and you need a friend, you're working through stuff, I'm telling you, you let us know, and I'll introduce you to my friend Kurt. I know he'd be willing to ride shotgun with you and help you get to the other side. Love you, my friend.
Love you, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.